Within the last few years, I moved back to the Cleveland area, and there were a few things that I didn't expect when I was making that move. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that I grew up in Parma, Ohio, which is directly south of Cleveland. And when I graduated high school, I decided to go out west in Ohio and go to the University of Toledo. And after I graduated, I decided that it was probably the best move for me to move back home, just because all of my family's here. And honestly, I really miss the city. But today I'm going to go over 11 tips just to make your life a little easier if you're considering moving to the area. Now, my name is Sam Oler, and I'm a realtor in the greater Cleveland area. So if you're moving to Cleveland itself or any of the surrounding suburbs, I'm able to help you. Now, it doesn't matter if you're moving in a couple weeks or a couple months. I've got different programs to suit whatever your needs may be. Now, jumping into the first tip that you're going to think about when you are moving to Ohio itself is going to be researching the state. You're going to need to familiarize yourself with the climate of the state, the cost of living, the job market, housing options, healthcare, schools, and even recreational activities. Now, in this video, I'm not going to be able to go over all of the surrounding suburbs because there are too many to count, but I do in-depth tours on my channel for all parts of Cleveland. So you can go check those out after this video if you have any other further interest. But for now, I'm going to go over some general statistics for each of those topics that I mentioned before. If you start to look at crime maps for the different areas around Cleveland, you'll notice that the west side statistically has less crime happening in its suburbs. So chances are, if you're wanting that safe bet as far as where you should move, the west and south sides are going to be your general point of interest. Also on the west side, you are going to find the majority of the wealth in Cleveland. Now, most of the cities surrounding are going to go up in value as you get closer to the lake. However, if you venture over to the east side, there are some very high class areas. You're gonna have some of the best rated schools in Ohio over that way, and also some very high class neighborhoods. However, if you're trying to get to the highway from those higher class cities, chances are you're probably going to be going through some not so great areas in Cleveland. Now, as far as comfort levels go, I always recommend coming out here so you can drive through each of the cities and get a real feel for it for yourself to see what area would suit you best. Now, as far as Cleveland goes in general, the cost of living here is about 5% higher than the different parts of Ohio. However, on the contrary, it's 6% lower than the national average. Within a certain radius surrounding Cleveland, you're going to find about 30,000 job openings, and the median salary is sitting right around 50,000, but you're going to have jobs ranging all the way up to 120 that are available. Average rents for homes and apartments sit right around 1,300, and the average house price is right at 350,000. So living in Cleveland is going to give you a great opportunity as far as cost of living goes. You're going to be able to save a lot of money, but you're also going to have some great access to some amazing healthcare here. We have some of the best healthcare systems in the world here, and one of them is truly world renowned, and that is the Cleveland Clinic. Along with them, you're going to see different prestigious hospitals such as University Hospitals, Mercy Health, Metro Health, and so many more. Now, something else I should mention is that all of the suburbs surrounding Cleveland are going to have some pretty solid school districts, and a lot of them are some of the top ones in Ohio. So no matter what city you end up in, you're probably going to have a really good chance for your student to get a great education, and they're also going to be fully prepared for that post-high school life, whether it be working or going into some further education. Now, as far as activities go in Cleveland, Ohio, you're going to have very fast access no matter where you live compared to Cleveland. You're probably going to be less than a 30-minute drive to get to the downtown itself. Now, once you're downtown, you're going to be able to take part in different things, such as different tourist attractions, including the Rock Hall, the Science Museum, the Cleveland Art Museum, downtown guided walking tours, food tours, and one that you really should check out is the Cleveland Arcade. Based on the name of it, you might think that it's an arcade, but it's actually the first indoor shopping center in America, and it was opened in 1890. It's one of those places that you walk in and it's truly an architectural piece of art. You can spend so much time staring at the ceiling, analyzing all of the different designs that they have in the walls. It's something that you really need to experience if you have the pleasure of visiting Cleveland. As far as some more local activities that you can take part in after you finish all your tourist attractions, you can watch some shows at Playhouse Square, or you can catch a concert over at the House of Blues, or if you're a sporting fan, you can check out any of our professional teams. Now, here we've got a lot of different professional leagues. We've got the Browns for the NFL, we've got the Cleveland Guardians for baseball, the Cleveland Cavaliers for basketball, and the Lake Erie Monsters for hockey. And if you're still needing some different things to do, we've got a ton of different metro parks that are spread throughout Cleveland. Most of them have different picnic areas, places to grill out, jungle gyms for the kids to play on, and tons of miles of hiking. But along with the metro parks, we also have a national park. And just southwest of Cleveland, you're going to find the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Now, that is one of my favorite places to go hang out and just absorb all the different sights that you have to see. There's some beautiful overlooks and some even cooler hiking trails. And there you're going to be able to see some pretty crazy waterfalls. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of going down to a waterfall and just sitting and listening to the sound of the rushing water and all the different birds and sounds associated with the woods. It's just super relaxing to me. And if you want to get more hyperlocal, each city has got yearly events that they put on. And in each one of my videos that I talk about the particular city, I start to include some of the ones that you can expect to go to. So like I said, there's a ton of different information in those ones if you decide to go check them out. Now, I briefly mentioned this in the last point, and that is going to be point number 2 for making your move to Cleveland a little bit easier. It is going to be visiting. Now, when you plan your trip to visit here, you're going to be able to do a few different things. Number 1 is going to be explore the neighborhoods and get that feeling of where you belong and which you'll be most comfortable in. But along with that, you're also going to be able to experience the culture that we have here and meet some of the locals. Now, I know you've probably heard of Southern charm, but Midwest people have some of the nicest personalities that I've ever met. I don't know what it is, but you could be walking down the street here and you smile at someone, they'll ask you genuinely how your day's going, and they'll be super polite throughout the whole conversation if you do strike one up. And while you're talking to them, be sure to ask them about their experience of living in the area, because they're going to be able to provide a different perspective from what I could tell you over the phone. And that's just something that is super convenient to have, because maybe that'll be the deciding factor on whether or not you move here. Now, if you've ever been to the area and actually talked to a local, you're probably going to notice that it's really hard to say goodbye. And here we call that the Ohio goodbye. Getting out of a party or conversation usually takes about 30 minutes. It is not a slow process by any means, but there's a few different ways you can avoid that. Now, me personally, I'm going to pull an Irish goodbye and not say goodbye to anyone or let them know that I'm leaving. That's only if I know the host and I'm good friends with them, but that's a little trick you can do to avoid the 30-minute conversation that's going to hold you up. But the majority of the time, you're going to have to expect some sort of extended conversation as you're leaving. Moving into tip number 3 for relocating to the Cleveland area, it's that you're going to want to get your finances in order. Now, what I mean by that is getting your budget in order so you know what the cost of living is before you come here. So that way you're not surprised by anything as far as bills, taxes, and other costs of living here. Depending on what type of home you buy, the bills here are going to vary a little bit. However, if you get an average sized home that was built in the mid-1900s, it's not going to be as efficient as newer builds, but it's not going to be as bad as the early 1900s homes. And you can expect to pay around $170 a month for gas or electric. And the reason I say or is because the gas and the electric flip-flop as the seasons change. In the winter, you're going to be using more gas with your furnace, and that bill is going to be sitting right around $170, while your electric is going to be sitting between $50 and $80. And in the summertime, you're going to be using more electric with the air conditioner, and then your gas is going to be used far less. So like I said, those bills start to flip-flop, and throughout the year they balance each other out. I would budget $170 for one of those and then $50 to $80 for the other ones. You're also going to have a internet bill and a water bill, and that water bill is going to have trash built into it, but that bill for the water is going to vary depending on what your usage is. Another cost that you may have to consider is that most families here drive 2 cars. Now, when you're in the suburbs, the areas aren't super walkable, so having those 2 cars on lock is going to help you out immensely, especially if someone is using the one and you need to get to somewhere else while they are using it. There is a lot of public transportation and Ubers and Lyfts available. However, those can get pretty pricey depending on how far you're driving. And the price of gas around here fluctuates a lot, but you're normally going to be sitting between that $3 and $4 mark per gallon. Now, one of the downsides to living here is that in Cuyahoga County, taxes are abnormally high compared to a lot of different areas throughout the United States. Property taxes can range from 1.6 to 3.8% of the home's value, and that is paid yearly. So in those western suburbs, you're probably going to be in a $400,000 house more than likely, and with an average tax rate of 2.6%, you're probably going to be paying around $9,600 a year. As far as your income goes while you're living here, you're probably going to be paying 2 sets of income tax, and one is going to be for the city that you work in, and the other is going to be for the city that you live in. Now, it's kind of a downer that they do that. However, there are a few ways that you can escape that. There's a few different townships throughout the Cleveland suburbs that you can live in that do not charge that income tax, so you can avoid it completely, or you can take a look at the list and target the cities that take the least amount. You can find all of that information down in the description. As far as tip number 4 goes for moving to the Cleveland area, you're going to want to find yourself a home. Now, this is the part where you're going to reach out to me and we're going to start to talk about what your needs are in a home. And once we nail those down, I'm going to be able to help you find the right home. Now, I always say it's a team effort between me and you. You're going to keep looking the way you were, whether it be Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia. There's a million different sites. I'm also going to be looking on behalf of you, and we're just going to send houses back and forth to each other. And then once the time comes, we are going to start touring them. That way we can start throwing offers out and getting you moved to the area sooner than later. Ideally, before you reach out to me, we'll have about 6 months to work with, just because of how competitive it is to move out here. A lot of the times, once you have a property under contract, it's going to take between 30 and 45 days to close. So in a perfect world, you'd have a little bit more time, but I also have helped people move here very quickly within a matter of weeks. So don't let that hold you back from reaching out to me. I'm very good about working with you in whatever your schedule is as far as having to move here. When you're looking for houses here, you're probably going to want to keep different factors in mind as you're going through, and those are going to include everything from proximity to your workplace, the different schools in the area, amenities that the cities have to offer, and also affordability. But once we start offering on properties and actually get one under contract, you're going to be needing to do tip number 5 for moving to Cleveland, which is going to be notifying different important parties. Now, some of the different people who are going to need to know about your move are going to include people like banks, employers, insurance providers, and depending on your situation, there's going to be some other relevant parties who are going to need to know as well. And once you get to this stage, you're going to need to make a list of the different services that you need to update your address for. And those things can be anything from credit cards to bill services, banks, and any others that may need to send you some mail. As you start to move further in the house buying process, you're going to be moving into tip number 6, and that is going to be making sure that all of the utilities are scheduled for transfer. Now, you normally do this a week before closing once all the negotiations are done and you're just waiting for the loan and title work to come back. That way you know it's pretty much a done deal. You're going to want to arrange to have the services at your house disconnected and then turned on at the new house once you are moving over this way. And the reason you want to have them transferred rather than shut off and then turned back on for your new house is because it could take up to a week for getting the different branches out there to actually turn the service back on. It's so much easier just to transfer it into your name so that way there's no lapse. And once you're actually closed on the property, there's going to be a few other things that you're going to have to do, and that is going to lead me into point number 7, which is going to be updating your documents and notifying the proper authority. Now, what I mean by that is you're going to need to update your driver's license, your vehicle registration, and your voter registration to reflect the new property's address. Now, if you're moving somewhere else, you're probably going to want to research the state's requirements so that way you're in compliance when you move there, and that way all your bases are covered. For tip number 8 for moving to Cleveland, you're going to want to consider your specific healthcare needs. Now, like I said, we've got some world-class healthcare here, but you're going to need to research the doctor specifically that you're going to want to work with, and you're going to need to have your medical records transferred over to the new area that you're going to be living in. But you only need to do that if that applies to you. Now, once you get all settled into your new home, it's going to lead me into tip number 9 for moving to Cleveland, Ohio, and that is building your social network. Now, it is incredibly important to build that social network here because it's going to make or break your experience. In order to make new friends, it's really difficult to do as an adult, but I've got some different ideas as far as activities that you can do to meet some new people. You can join different community groups, clubs, social organizations, or my personal favorite, playing rec sports. Now, you don't need to be super athletic to join a rec sport. Me personally, I've always been a soccer player, so that is what I gravitated to. But as I was joining my soccer teams when I moved back here, that was when I realized I could make friends super easily. And some of the teams that I was joining had people who had never played before. On my team in particular, we had 2 people that we trained up to play, and they actually turned into some pretty good players. And now they're having an absolute blast playing because they're actually good at it. But if soccer is too fast-paced for you, you can do different things like volleyball, softball, ultimate frisbee, flag football. There's a ton of different options as far as those go. And there's even a lot of different cornhole leagues around here that are super fun to play in. And by doing things like this, you're going to be immersing yourself in the culture around. It's just going to make it a lot more enjoyable over time here. So I definitely recommend taking part in some sort of activity as an adult, even if you're introverted. Now, as far as tip number 10 goes for moving to the Cleveland area, you're going to want to learn about those local laws and regulations so that way you don't accidentally get in trouble for some reason. There's so many different local laws that change throughout the United States, and some of those laws don't apply to different counties throughout Ohio. So it's better to be safe than sorry and just learning them. That way you don't have to learn the hard way. Some of the laws that you're probably going to want to learn about are probably going to include anything from traffic laws to housing laws and even other local ordinances. Now, I mentioned culture a couple times throughout this video, and that is going to be my tip number 11. I think if you embrace and immerse yourself in this local culture, you're going to have a spectacular time here. You're going to be able to experience so many different types of local cuisine. There's always some sort of cultural festival that's going on that you can go and learn about the different cultures. And just being open to experiencing these different cultures is going to change your outlook on life as a whole. And that will play a big part in making you adjust and feel more connected to your surroundings while you're living in this area. Now, those are my top tips as far as moving to the Cleveland area goes. And if you're not even moving to the Cleveland area and you're just considering a bunch of different states, you can take all all of them and apply them to the state that you're living in. So even if you're not moving to the area, I hope this helped you in some sort of way. But those are just some different ideas that you're gonna need to keep in mind for when you're making your move. Now, like I said, feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk a little bit more about the Cleveland area. I can help tailor a plan specifically to you, so that way it makes your move incredibly easy. All of my contact information is down in the description if you want to reach out to me. But while you're down there, definitely hit that like button and subscribe, because it's going to help me out a ton, and it's going to keep you up to date with everything that's been going on in the Cleveland area as far as real estate goes. And realistically, there's going to be a lot more than just Cleveland real estate. So with all that being said, I'm going to leave the video there. I'll catch you in the next one.